Yo, you're watching the Screaming Fish here, people, and once again I'm here for you guys with yet another video, and this time, as you can tell by the clearly very obvious title at the bottom of the screen, we are taking a look at The Defenders, which is a Netflix original show, also made by Marvel, and it's basically a crossover between 4 shows: Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Iron Fist, and it's basically like a street-level version of The Avengers, and a show I've been really looking forward to. So, this is going to be a review of the entire season. I binge-watched the entire show in one day. Don't know if that was a good idea, but I like binge-watching stuff, so there you go. But yeah, I'm here to review it for you guys. I'm not going to review it episode by episode. I'm just going to give you straight up my full-on thoughts about the entire show. So, without further ado, let's get on with my review of The Defenders. This is a show that I have been Avengers level of hype to see. I love the idea of seeing a street level version of the Avengers in the MCU, and of course it was some of my favourite characters crossing over from their own shows in this 8-episode long season. I have no problem admitting that I didn't like Iron Fist. It wasn't god-awful, there were some redeeming qualities, but overall it was hugely disappointing. Although I did love both seasons of Daredevil, the first season of Jessica Jones was also great, and I especially love Luke Cage. I will admit, though, I did start to get a little worried when I saw the reviews for the show. The reviews for the show that I've seen were positive, but at the same time pretty hollow. Some people said that it's very entertaining and a lot of fun, but it has a lot of problems. That said, I love what Marvel and Netflix have done with these shows, most of them anyway, so I was still very much willing to give it a try. Wisely, this show starts off by showing us what these characters have been doing since the finales of their own shows. It doesn't immediately cut to these characters actually teaming up. Instead, the first couple of episodes are really about these characters doing their own thing. Luke Cage is trying to help this kid who's gotten himself into a lot of trouble. Jessica Jones is trying to find a client. Iron Fist is trying to track down the organization known as the Hand, and Daredevil is trying not to be Daredevil. Even when these characters finally meet with each other, it doesn't go straight to the team-up, where they all fight loads of bad guys. Instead, it has them trying to get used to each other. They run into each other at different points, and then we get to see them slowly get into the idea of working together as a team. All 4 of these characters are very damaged people. They all have had a lot of bad things happen to them in the past, and what this season captures so brilliantly is that most of these characters are so used to doing things on their own, so we get to see all 4 of these characters get used to the idea of accepting help from other people. They're not used to the idea of accepting help from others because they've been doing things on their own for so long, and also because some of them, in particular Daredevil, are worried for the safety of the ones they care about. Charlie Cox, once again, is fantastic as Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil. When we first see him in this show, he's retired in some sense. He just doesn't want to fight crime anymore. But you can tell that he feels out of place. He feels that by not doing that, he's not being himself, and you can tell that it's really getting to him. Charlie Cox's portrayal of Daredevil has quickly become one of my favourite superheroes of all time. He looks great in the suit, his performance is always fantastic, and the fact that Daredevil is the only character on this team who wears a costume not only helps to make him stick out, but it also makes for some really great comedy. Whenever he puts on his suit, you get a lot of great comedic lines from the other 3 defenders, especially Jessica Jones. Krysten Ritter is superb as Jessica Jones. I love that she's basically an alcoholic superhero who hates being called a hero. She really doesn't want to be part of this whole situation. She just doesn't want to get involved, and she really doesn't care at first. But as the show progresses, she begins to feel a sense of meaning and purpose for what they're doing. One recurring theme throughout this show is that none of these characters really view themselves as heroes. Some of them even hate saying the word. There's even an entire episode of the show that is dedicated to that theme, and if I'm honest, it's one of the best episodes in terms of character development. You guys know pretty well that I did not like Iron Fist. It's my least favourite out of all the shows, and if I'm honest, I never really liked the character of Iron Fist in that show. However, I think Danny Rand, aka Iron Fist, is handled considerably better here in this show than he was in his own show. He is a much more lighthearted presence here. Out of all the 4 main heroes, he's the only one that seems optimistic about the idea of teaming up to fight the main villains of the show, the Hand. His mission is to take down the Hand, and when he finds out that 3 other people are more or less in the same battle, he actually wants to team up. I also thought that Finn Jones' performance was considerably better, and he was a much more compelling character this time around, and very likeable. Mike Colter as Luke Cage is the walking definition of badass. There's such a great level of humanity to his character. He doesn't want to use his immense strength or abilities for anything other than helping people, and because of that element, he really shines in scenes where the team has to make a lot of really difficult decisions, where he has to stand back and say, look, I'll do this, but no one innocent gets hurt. No one. Out of all the Marvel Netflix shows, this is definitely the funniest. Not just because they all keep making fun of the fact that Daredevil wears a suit, but it also comes out of the whole team-up itself. And it really works because it's not just 4 people coming together to fight bad guys. They actually take the time to humanize these characters and show that it's basically 4 really damaged people coming together to take down this huge threat, who have a tough time working with anyone other than themselves, and they have to get used to it. One thing that these shows are really well known for is the action sequences. Daredevil had fantastic action sequences, and so did Luke Cage, and for the most part, the action sequences in The Defenders are fantastic. They are choreographed exceptionally well, and it's all shot and edited so you can really soak in this truly amazing stunt work and choreography. My favourite action sequences in the show were easily in episode 3. That episode was incredible, and the final battle in the series finale, which was also amazing. The fight choreography, as always, is brilliant, but there were, however, a few that I thought were pretty poorly lit. There was clearly some great choreography on display, but the lighting was too dark for me to even see the sequence, and there were way too many jump cuts. For the most part, though, the filmmakers do a splendid job at making them look cool, whether it's through the way they're edited, filmed, and of course the choreography is always great. There are also a lot of subplots that were set up in the other 4 shows that are momentarily addressed, and it can make the show feel a little uneven, and those subplots don't really do anything to further develop the continuity, but at the same time I feel there are some missed opportunities here. There was a particular subplot that was set up in the season finale of Luke Cage that I really wanted to see mentioned in this show and carried out, but while it was mentioned, we only get to see the aftermath of that plot, which was really disappointing. I love the inclusion of characters like Colleen Wing, who's played brilliantly by Jessica Henwick. I loved her character in Iron Fist, and I thought she was great once again here in this show. She has some history with one of the villains of the show, which does add some tension to her character, which I thought was great. Rosario Dawson, once again, is great as Claire Temple. She's sort of like the Nick Fury of all the Marvel Netflix shows and appearing in pretty much all of them. While she wasn't in this one as much as I thought she would be, her inclusion was still welcome nonetheless, and her performance is spot on. Unfortunately, there were some side characters that I found to be kind of annoying. Characters like Karen Page, Foggy Nelson, and Misty Knight I liked in the other shows they appeared in, but here they basically felt like people who were against what the Defenders were doing, and they kept trying to convince certain characters to stop what they were doing because they care for their safety. But it just made characters I really liked at first really annoying and unlikable in some cases. But at the same time, those plot points are actually needed so that these characters can feel some pressure from not only the law, but even their loved ones, so that they understand that they can't just get away with absolutely everything. There's also scenes where one character would be explaining that there's this huge threat coming to take down New York and only they can stop it, and one of them just cannot comprehend or believe what the character is saying, and I'm just sitting there thinking, you're telling me that in a world where the Avengers happened, you don't believe that there's this huge threat coming to take down New York that's possibly gonna crumble the whole city to bits? You're actually kidding me right now. There's also one episode in this show that feels like it's there purely for setup, where it just shuffles characters around to get them to a specific place, and that episode just really dragged on and on. Now let's talk about the villains of this show, The Hand. The Defenders finally introduces us to the 5 fingers of the Hand. These guys are basically the ones in charge of this huge criminal organization, and Sigourney Weaver plays the top dog of this group. She is excellent in this. She's a very intimidating villain. She's a very complex and extremely refined villain. She's not some sort of ice queen or some random bad guy that the Defenders have to fight. There's something about her character that I won't spoil here that makes her vulnerable, and it really adds a lot to her character. You really understand her ideology, and a lot of the time you can really see where she's coming from in terms of her motives and the things she says. I also think they did a great job at showing why this huge organization thinks they're doing the right thing, and it actually made me care for a few of them, which is something I wasn't expecting to feel when seeing these villains on screen. I wasn't a huge fan of the Elektra storyline in Daredevil Season 2, it felt a little tacked on to me, but they really got Elektra right in this show. She was a very intimidating presence on screen, and I liked the way they took her character. She had some pretty enthralling scenes in this show, and she was a complete badass. As awesome as the season finale of the show was, the last 20 minutes are incredibly meandering, and I feel that the episode just went on for far too long. There were at least 5 times where I thought the episode was going to end, and it just kept going and dragging on. It also kept jumping from place to place like a pinball machine, and it did get kind of confusing, and I will admit the ending is incredibly predictable. The thing that I have always loved about most of Netflix's Marvel shows is that they always manage to look like they belong on a big silver screen in a theatre. Despite the budget being relatively small compared to the budget of the MCU movies, everything from the visual effects to the colour palette that just makes every shot look absolutely beautiful, and of course the fight choreography, feels like this show costs 10 times as much as it did to make. The best thing I can really say about The Defenders is that the filmmakers found great ways to further delve into the backstories of these characters and show why it may be difficult for them to accept having to team up or work together with someone else to take down a huge threat. And the way they made the actual team up seem funny I thought was brilliant. It is a very slow moving show, but once the team up does happen, it's the definition of epic. It's not perfect, I did have a few issues with it, but overall I really enjoyed the show and I had a lot of fun binge watching it. So guys, those are my thoughts on The Defenders. I do hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed watching the show. Like I said, I watched it all in one day and it was a blast. But yeah, you guys are probably wondering where I am. I actually forgot to mention at the beginning of this video that I'm currently in my bedroom. I just thought it'd be pretty funny to be in a different location, but in hindsight it was pretty pointless. Anyway, once again, I do hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And I will indeed see you in the next one. But before I go, I would just like to ask you guys, what did you think of The Defenders? Did you think it was good? Did you think it was bad? Did you think it was somewhere in the middle? Please leave your thoughts down in the comments below, and I will indeed see you guys in the next one. So, yeah. Bye.